Hello, everyone. We are back again in the Football Doctor program, where we look at footballing issues. We have had in the past a couple of great speakers, and who we have lined for you today is one of those greats too, a former fellow committee member in the football fraternity from the technical committee when I was back then in FA Malaysia. And this gentleman was the former Director General of MSN, Majlis Sukan Negara. He was also with the Institute Sukan Negara. He was also the director of ADAMAS, the anti-doping Malaysian agency. And currently, he's the senior consultant to the sports in sports medicine in Institute Sukan Negara. And I'm sure by now a lot of you would have known, because we have also posted the poster earlier. It is none other than my dear friend and our dear Datuk Dr. Ramlan Abdul Aziz, who at that one point of time, who was well known, and everybody, he's a person, you guys must know. I know him personally. He's a person whom we could just stop at a street and just ask him and just talk to him, and he is just that down to earth. Not because Dr. Ramlan is online with me now, here, but I'm saying this from the heart, and I have my deepest respects for him. A great person to have in the football fraternity, or rather the sports fraternity. It's a loss if they do not use him. And for the benefit of all viewers, football lovers specifically, because we are on the topic of football, I've managed to get him to come on board. Thank you, Dato, for having spared some time to be in our program. Now, basically, as what I would ask, this is a program where there is no holds barred, without fear or favor. We have in the past looked at very sensitive issues plaguing the Malaysian football industry, and it's still not resolved. And there is a question that has come from the sports science fraternity, that the question is, does Malaysian football lack from the sports science perspective? And I think there'll be nobody else better qualified to talk about this, being at the highest echelon of management in the Institute Sukan Negara, or ISN, National Sports Institute, and Majlis Sukan Negara, and being at one point of time advisor to the minister. I think he is the right person. And for the viewers' information, there is a different way of doing this session. Datuk would be doing a presentation, and then in between these presentations, I will be interjecting with certain questions that netizens have posted in the Facebook and directly posted to me, asked me. So then we will get into the discussion of whether Malaysian football lacks from the sports science perspective, because there are many questions that are pertaining to that. With that, I will now invite Dr. Ramlan to further introduce himself, if I've left out Dato, sorry, and then carry on with the topic, because I'm sure, Dato, you know that, and the viewers know that the thing that lacks in Malaysian sports or football, I would say, because I'm involved in football, many coaches do not know exactly what sports science is. And sometimes sports science personnel who come in to advise look at it from just the sports science. They don't look at it from the football perspective. We need somebody who could blend it and advise. That's where we lack. Coaches do not know what is loading. Coaches do not know how much to load. Coaches don't even know what is loading. And the sports science part is just touch and go in the coaching syllabuses. which I feel is wrong, because it should be understood well from the football perspective. And I think I want to clarify that today, Datuk. So without much delay, we welcome Dr. Ramlan Abdulaziz to come forward and shed the light for us today. You're welcome, Datuk. Come, Datuk.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Subra, my old friend. We've known each other for I think for a few decades, haven't we?
Yep, absolutely.
And there was one time when we were in the technical committee of Football Association of Malaysia for some years. Yes,
that's right. That's right.
So I'm sure there'll be an occasion when we can look at certain things in very specifically regarding what ails the athlete's performance. There's several dimensions to this issue, about sport science in sport, and specifically to football. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing that I have observed in the end is that sometimes we do not know where to start, and when we started something, we do not know how to proceed. Right?
Yeah.
And when we have somewhat proceeded in a certain manner, we do not know where we're going.
Okay.
So this is a multi-dimensional issue that we're discussing tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I trust that all our friends in the audience will be able to stay with me regarding any certain points. And whatever questions that come up, of course, you as the moderator will forward the question, and we can look at it. But there might be some questions towards the end, or there's some questions that might not be able to be fully expressed during this session itself. And I would welcome any communications through email that they might want to forward to you, and then you can forward to me. It's not a problem. I'll always be happy to help. I think what I'll do now is I will just share on the screen here. Now, I have, of course, you have introduced me so nicely. Thank you very much. And these pictures essentially shows my background as a team physician. Okay. I was with the national hockey team for 16 years altogether.
Wow.
Yeah, 16 years. From the time I first joined the National Sports Council, I was taking care of the national hockey team at the Asian Games in Beijing in 1990. But then I was assigned to the national junior team in 1991 with Coach C. Paramalingam. Now my old friend, my old and dear friend. And following that, of course, all the players in the national junior team, of course, they graduated to the senior team as well. So for quite a while, I was in charge of both the junior and the national and the senior national teams. Okay. So that was a wild ride. Fortunately, they didn't ask me to take care of the women's team, or else my life would have not been as peaceful as as I would have wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, being a team physician is a very of a national team in a team sport like this. Actually informed a lot of my ideas and my thoughts about how to deal with football when I became involved in football, when I took over from the as director of the National Sports Institute. Of course, my view of it is not just purely hockey or badminton or anything like that, but also with football. So that was the start of it. And this was the time when we won the semi-final against India in the Commonwealth Games 1998, and then of course in the final we went on to lose to Australia and got the silver medal. So that was quite a pinnacle experience then in 1998. And, of course, apart from team sport, there are also other sports, especially badminton. This was when we were servicing Lee Chong Wei, the All England Championships in 2010 in Birmingham. So you can see it in the picture. Apart from myself, as a team doctor, there was also on my right is Fred Tan, the psychologist. To his right is Fadil, the physiotherapist. To my left, of course, is Datuk Misbun, the coach. To his
Okay.
left is a sportsman, so I've forgotten his name, but
Okay.
he was also national cyclist, ex-national cyclist. And
All
to
right.
his left is a team video analyst. So you can
Okay.
see how so many different types of people
Okay.
were missing just one single athlete. All right.
Okay.
It is, of course, he's a top athlete in the world,
Hmm.
and it is most important that we realize. And of course, there are other things in my life at that point, with anti-doping, with meetings and conferences in sports science, sports medicine, anti-doping, and of course, so I recognize the political ramifications that
Okay.
affect sport. So this one has basically helped to inform me about how to deal with placing sports science in the center frame of an athlete's development. Okay, all right.
Okay. Okay.
So if you look at certain things, of course, we will go through this presentation. We'll be looking at certain truths, certain fundamental questions
Okay.
that pervade every type of sport.
Okay.
But in this case, I will try to tune in so that it is relevant to football. And of course, you are most welcome to reel me in if I go
Sure.
astray, go to
No
other
problem.
sports.
No
Yeah,
problem.
and there are of course so many issues and realities that we have to face,
Hmm.
and this will not be an easy ride for many people to hear,
Okay.
because basically sometimes we socially and politically the problem in sport is that we sometimes fail to address the fundamental issues,
Okay.
but yet we make the same demands as if everything has been dealt with without leaving any stone unturned.
All
All
right.
right.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we can also discuss how should we move forward in terms of adopting and embracing sports science properly
Okay.
in football. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that would be good. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the basic philosophy of sports science services to any sport, all right, especially in a team sport, complex sport like football, all right, consisting of so many different positions, different types of play, different formations, so on and so forth. But the fundamental philosophy is still integrating all these disparate disciplines, many separate
Okay.
disciplines of sports science, physiology, psychology, nutrition, biomechanics, so on and so forth. So how do we approach this? It has to be integrated. If it's not integrated, then it will be difficult to have the right effective manner in delivering this. And of
Okay.
course, the things that we do not only embrace the service aspects of sports science, there's also an educational aspect to it, all right?
Hmm.
Where we educate both the athlete and the coach at the same time. And of course, at different levels and different circumstances, so on and so forth. But the most important thing is that we have to educate the athletes, because in our country, athletes are exposed to sports science only after Sukan Malaysia. All right.
Okay.
Before
Okay.
Sukan Malaysia, there is no such thing. What is sports science? All they know is they want to go and play football, and the coach
Okay.
will tell them how to play it, and
Okay.
and and that's how they do it.
Now,
But
if Dato, if
yeah,
just 1 second. Now, if I
please,
may just ask you,
yeah,
why? Because Sukma is around 19, 18, 19, 20 years of age,
yes,
right? Why do you think uh, sport science? They are not the athletes,
yeah,
or rather the coaches. I mean, I know for sure one that coaches go through coaching courses where sports science is an important factor.
right,
They also have level 1 and level 2 and level 3 by MSN, which is compulsory to be incorporated into the coaching license.
yes.
Why do you think that even with this sort of education, why
Mm.
do you think that the athletes are not exposed to sports science until SUKMA?
Because it's like riding how to bike. I had to ride a bike,
Okay.
right? Now, if you are exposed to, if you start riding a bike when you're about 6, 7, or 8 years old,
Uh-huh.
very young, you'll be a terrific cyclist.
Okay.
Right? You can do all the tricks, all the fancy jumps and leaps and all that. But if you are going to learn how to ride the bike at 16 or 17 years old,
Mhm.
can you imagine the challenges that you have to face? You can't really master all the different facets of all the different angles of riding how to ride a bike, let alone doing all the tricks that's required in whatever event that you are involved in. What I'm saying is that sports science need to be introduced at a much earlier stage. All right.
How
Now,
early is it?
well, in 2015, there'll be another part of the slide, another slide that will show that.
Okay.
But I think it's worth mentioning at this point that it
All right.
needs to start early. And when is it early enough? It has to start before puberty.
All right.
All right. Puberty is about what? 12,
11, 12, yeah.
14. You know.
Yeah.
Between 12 to 14, typically.
Okay.
Because when somebody has undergone puberty, they suddenly become a wise guy, you know. They suddenly feel that they know everything. They don't want to listen to people. They become resistant.
Okay.
So it is difficult for us to introduce anything new, and there's so many things going on in their minds, you know, and they're not so receptive. You know the Malay saying, untuk membentuk buluh daripada rebung.
Ya, melentur waktu. Yeah.
That's the thing. The most important melentur daripada rebung, kan?
Yeah.
That's the most important realization that we've got.
Okay.
That is why in 2007 we actually opened satellite centers.
Okay.
In Penang, Sarawak, Sabah, Johor, and so many states. Eventually, we had 3 centers in Sabah, 2 centers in Sarawak. Apart from all the states in Peninsular Malaysia, simply because we felt that when the athletes from whatever sport reaches us by the time they're 19, 20, 21, it is quite late, you know. We struggle in educating them and getting them to believe, in what we're doing. It's like instead of spending time executing our job, we have to spend time getting them to be on board with what we need to do.
Yeah. So we are left out.
Exactly. And for us to get them to be on board with us, we have to explain to them why we're doing things.
Okay.
All right? They're not sheep for us to say, go here, go there, and they will follow. No. They need to say, why do I have to do this? Right? When they say, why do I, then it takes time for us to explain. Now, if we had done that years prior to that, when they were, let's say, between the time when they started, right? Like, for example, the talent identification and development program that we introduced with the Education Ministry in 2015.
Okay.
Call it MyTID. Okay. Malaysian Talent Identification and Development, 2015.
Okay.
It is now undergoing review and all that. But it is very important for us to identify talent as early as possible.
Okay.
So that we can introduce sports science as early as possible.
Okay.
Because there are fundamental requirements, physical, mentally, mental development, and also nutrition.
Okay.
Right? These are the 3 areas where things happen on a daily basis. Now, we're not talking about sports, we're not talking about teaching them how to play football or hockey or badminton. That hasn't started yet. What we need to do is establish them as good material. If we can see the talent that they have with the physical, physiological, mental, character attributes that they may have at 6 or 7 when we test them. As we know, later on, we can test them further with specific testing to see where do we channel them.
Okay, so I was involved in this debate even during my time when I was with the youth department with FAM. Now, MSN came out with this battery of tests to do the TID. Now, from the football perspective, the TID, to me, I looked at it. The TID, the protocols that they gave us was more towards individual sports. For example, a shot putter or a javelin thrower or a long distance runner where you have fast twitch muscles or slow twitch muscles and so on. But for football, from the whole framework, at that age, we do not look at physical attributes. We do not look at, because they can grow. There is a growth spurt at certain point of time. So we are not worried about that. Of course, nutrition is very important, but we look at technical skills. We look at the inborn skills that they have, and then we cater the training session towards something that will develop them, enhance what they have, and make it better for those things that they do not have. For example,
can I ask you?
So yeah,
can I ask you when you're looking at talent development, skills development, okay?
Okay.
Not so much the talent identification yet, because that starts earlier than that, you know.
Okay.
Now, the talent and skill development that you are citing here, when do you start? How old are they when you start doing
About
this?
5 to 6.
5 to 6, okay. Now, with football, that is the challenge, you see.
Okay.
All right? What we have done is, because we haven't got the balance right.
Yeah.
Okay? So what we have is several generations of very skillful players who cannot last more than 60 minutes.
Okay.
Who are not strong enough, who are not durable enough.
Okay.
They're not flexible enough.
Okay.
But they can do any sort of skill that they want, because our players are actually as skillful as any Brazilian.
Yes, absolutely right.
I believe that. I've seen.
It's true. Very true.
Yes, I accept that. But the problem is they're not very good athletes.
Okay.
This is the issue. So
we're not very good athletes from the physiological and the mental part, yeah?
Physical, physiological, mental, all these sport science that we're talking about.
Okay.
So this is the problem. Now the talent identification is attempting to get the proper balance. Of course, when we do the testing, we're not looking at the football specific skill. You're not looking at that. That will be the coach's job. That can be done either in parallel, before, or even after that. Depends. But that is another different track. But this track has to merge at one point. Yes? What we're doing is just the scientific thing. Now, there's always a battery of tests that we do, the fundamentals, to see whether this athlete is, whether they are at the top 10% of the population that we're testing in terms of their their physical and physiological capabilities. That's number one. Now, out of that population, we tested in 2015, we tested 104,000 standard 1 school kids.
7 years old.
As early as we can get, standard 1.
Yeah, 7 years old,
So, 7 years old. We tested them. So when we tested them, we managed to get, out of the 104,000 that we tested, which is actually 1/5 or 20% of the total population of standard 1 school kids all over Malaysia. So that was the first test, attempt. So it was more of a trial, and we wanted to test 20% of the student population in standard 1. Now, when we did that, we identified 21,000. We expected 10 to 15,000 out of the 100,000. We actually got 21,000. Who were at the top 10% of the population in terms of the capabilities. That means we had 21,000 possible national athletes out of the 100,000. But of course, out of the 21,000, who knows what sort of sport they'll be going after? Because the initial screening test that we did in standard 1 will not dictate the type of sport that they will take. Whether it is an individual sport or a team sport. And if it's a team sport, whether it's hockey or football, right? And we're not taking into account what is it that they are interested in as well.
That means you pick up this 21,000, and then later looking at their what do you call indulgence into the kind of sports they want to, and you just channel them.
Yes, it's like this, because we test them in the initial stages. It's just a screening test at 7 years old. But there'll be 3 years of what we call multilateral development training. Where there are elements of track and field, athletics, elements of gymnastics, and then we even teach them how to swim.
All those are definitely needed for a football player.
They are needed as as a
Definitely.
fundamental. Yes,
Yes.
because you have to run faster, jump
Yes.
higher, you know, and
Yes.
react faster.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, and when you are, we have undergone some gymnastics training. So, this is all multilateral development training. I think all the
Okay.
coaches will know this,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So, we're not talking about football anyway.
Yeah. Not yet.
Yeah. So, you can introduce the football at that point, all
Okay.
right?
All right.
But I'm sure you recognize the fact that you cannot make them,
Specialize.
you cannot pressurize them.
Yes. Yeah.
Let them play.
I'm with you with that on that, because
Yeah.
we do not specialize until they are 12, 13, 14.
There you go.
Yes.
That's it.
Until then, they are
Yeah.
free to. In fact, Datuk,
Yes.
we have told coaches, do not restrict these young children, between the ages of 5 to 12,
Yeah.
to specialize on any sport. Let them play everything, because you need the psychomotor movement.
Exactly. Yes, yes. You know,
Agree.
the thing is, when I heard about this development of satu murid satu sukan,
Uh-huh.
I was quite concerned. You know, no.
Yeah.
Let me correct myself. I was very concerned
Okay.
because satu murid banyak sukan.
Yeah, absolutely. We all play all the games.
Exactly. No, you
Yeah.
play football, you play hockey, you play rugby,
Yes.
athletics, right? You
Yeah,
run, you
yeah.
throw.
Sepak
these are
takraw.
exactly. So
Uh-huh.
what is it that is so difficult to grasp?
Yeah.
Why are we channeling and making our young athletes specialize too soon?
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So this is the problem. So the concept that we have of multilateral development training, for that program introduced in 2015, we have this 21,000. They will be under specific multilateral development coaches, you know, who will be assisted by coaches in athletics, in gymnastics, swimming, so on and so forth.
Okay.
All right? And we encourage them to play for fun. We encourage them to have fun and find the joy in sports.
Yeah,
all right?
that's the
So
basic.
this is something that we need to get, because if we pressure them to playing football for competition,
Yeah.
and then suddenly the joy of the sport is lost somewhat at that young stage.
Yeah.
So
And they lose interest.
yeah, definitely. And there
Yeah.
is some damage, you know.
Yeah.
There is going to be some damage, because when you introduce competition too soon, or you pressure them into thinking specifically about one sport,
Yeah.
then you are depriving them of the ability, that versatility is actually good, because then you develop different areas that will help you later on in that one sport.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I'll come to that. I have a question on that. Pressuring them to win, putting priority on not on participation but winning at a very young age. Yeah, the after effects of that. I'll come to that later, Dato. Just to mention it. Yeah, go ahead.
No problem. So let's move on to, because at the end of the day we'll be addressing. You see, now after the 3 years, right? You are 7, 8, 9 years old.
Yeah.
So when you're 10 years old, we do another round of testing.
Okay.
Right? Now this round of testing is to channel them. What are the 5 sports that they're most likely to flourish in?
Okay.
Right? It may well be football, athletics, sepak takraw, you know, hockey, so on and so forth. So we try to find 5 sports as far as possible. And then as between the ages of 10 and 12, by the time they reach 12, they have to make a decision.
All right.
Right? To specialize in one sport, because you cannot be doing, of course you can do football and athletics because it's different seasons and all that.
Yeah.
But for you to say, I want to be a hockey player and also a football player, which in the old days, like I remember Coach Param, Paramalingam, right? So Coach Param played football, he played hockey, he played cricket, right? And he could have an international in all 3 of those.
Yeah.
Imagine. But of course, in choosing football, he got to play in the Olympics twice, right?
Okay.
In Tokyo 64 and in Mexico City 68. Whereas football for us at that point, we never got any headway until 1972, wasn't it?
Yes.
We went to the Olympics. So he had to make a choice, and I'm sure all of the athletes faced with such situations where they are talented in many different sports, they'll have to make a choice. All right? Because apart from sports, we also have to study.
Yeah.
So to study and to do well, you can't be doing so many 4 or 5 different sports at the same time, trying to make studies. And you know how parents are nowadays, right?
Yeah.
It's all about it's all about getting good results, but not about character development.
Yeah,
How to be a good person,
Sad.
which is the most important thing in the world, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So let's move on. We
Okay.
will address some of those questions that you.
Sure, we'll do. Sure,
right?
we'll do. Yep.
Now the thing about sports is that sports doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Okay.
It doesn't exist in the vacuum because it is still a cross section of society at large.
Okay.
All right. So the sports ecosystem doesn't just involve sports per se. It involves work, studies, family, so on and so forth. So we have to recognize that it is part and parcel of society and our nation.
So can I just sum it up to say sports is a school of life?
Of course.
Yeah,
you see, because I will get to a point later specifically. You can see where as much as we say that sports play an important part in the youngsters' life as they explore their talent and capability in sports, there's also a life going on, in the middle of all that. And for them, if they don't get their life to be stable, all right, and according to what they wish, because they cannot be playing football, until the end of their days.
Yeah, very limited time.
So and of course their lives must be, their personal and life outside football have to be stable so that it doesn't affect them when they play sports. You see.
Yeah.
So there is sport in their lives, but there's also life in their sport. Okay.
Yep.
Right. So there you go. Just now I made this point about being in cross-section society at large.
Yep.
And of course, as the athlete moves up, they are being managed by so many different parties.
Okay.
All right. When they're in the primary school and then secondary school, and then they'll go to Sekolah Sukan Negeri, the state sports schools, and then they become part of the school and also even the state. So then the Majlis Sukan Negeri will take over, and then later on you have the development by the National Sports Council, and then of course when they reach university, at diploma or degree level, then they'll be under the higher education ministry, and eventually they'll go back and they'll be tracked. And when they're good enough to be national athletes at youth or any of the age group levels, plus the pinnacle of it, at least the SEA Games level, then they'll be under the Majlis Sukan Negara. Now, all this is the part where we call it program management. All right?
Okay.
Now, if you look at the left-hand side, right? Sorry, that's the old logo of ISN. I have never managed to. But what it represents is that because we have done the talent identification testing screening, all right, from the very beginning, and we move with them, we track them, because that program in 2015, there is a database. Okay. The 21,000 athletes that we identified, we will track that athlete, that youngster, all the way until they become national athletes.
Okay.
Right? Of course, at certain points, many will drop out because there's always attrition and people will drop out due to various factors,
Datuk, how about late developers? If you have the 21,000, are you going to be set on just this 21,000, or are you open for late bloomers?
Oh, we're always open. We're always open.
That means testing is going on a regular basis.
You see, because at this point, we're keeping track of these 21,000, but we always will repeat the testing. All right?
All right. Okay. For new talent.
That's right. Both the physical, non-sport specific one, and also the sport specific. Because we keep in touch with. Because the talent identification testing cannot be done by sports scientists or school people. It has to be, there must be involvement from FAM, from the state FAs, from the national FA. Because
in what way, Dato'?
Well, look, if we say that that football belongs to FAM, they are the guardians of the sport. Okay. Right? So at state level and also at national level. Okay. So they must take an active interest, right, in the development of football. They cannot just expect national athletes or national footballers to come up like mushroom, right? In the end, or fruits to be picked. But yeah, you never nurtured them. You never tak pernah bagi baja, right? Suddenly you expect a strong tree to be growing.
To have a strong buah.
There you go. You cannot be picking any fruit if you have not nurtured the tree. Okay. All right. So now it's going all the way. So this is a basic representation of the faces, but of course there are so many details inside here.
Okay.
Now let's look at this particular slide. This one, if you look at the top left-hand side, the one with the upper oval, around here, right? Can you see that?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
National Sports Organization. So that means that's FAM.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now at the bottom one, this oval, represented by National Sports Council.
Okay.
But in the middle here, there's so many things. These are the sports scientists, the coaches, the doctors, you know. Now, the national sports organizations and the National Sports Council, what they do is they do program management. They manage the program. All the programs, the administrative, financial, and logistical support management. All right?
Towards the testing of these athletes and so on, yeah?
No.
Whole structure.
In terms of giving them finance, so that they get the financial support, right? So on and so forth. Because taking care of athletes right now, there's always this debate that this is a management thing, all right? But I put it to you, of course it is a management thing, but that is a program management where you fund the government and also the organization will fund the competition programs, you know, the trips overseas for both training and also for competitions, organize the liaison with FIFA, Asian Football Confederation, so on and so forth. That sort of thing. But in the middle here, with all of this sports science, coaching, sports medicine, this is a sports performance delivery. And this part, this massive part in the center is called performance management.
Okay.
Okay, not program management.
Okay.
The thing is, if the problem is for so long, the National Sports Institute was part of the National Sports Council. So everybody thought that everything was under the National Sports Council.
Okay.
All right. Whereas in fact, these two things are like, of course, there are certain overlaps and all that. But the thing is so technical with the performance management, with all of these scientific, technological, situations that we have in the middle part of all of this, right? All of this, it is difficult for people to manage. If they can manage policy, admin, and finance and logistics, it is beyond them to be managing scientific, medical, and technological endeavors.
Okay, Datuk, let me just ask you this.
Yes.
From what you have said, as FAM as the main stakeholder, at that one point of time, the state FAs now, after club licensing being introduced, it is the clubs per se.
Right.
It is their duty to actually look seriously into athlete development, or here rather the football players development, educating the coaches. Now, I'm going to put you on a spot to ask you this question when I ask you this.
Right.
How much, from your experience, from your engagement, how much did FAM or clubs at that time, or rather state FAs, engage themselves with National Sports Institute and MSN in order to tackle this this issue of players from the scientific? That was the main question. Did football lack from the sports science input? Did they say that it is MSN and ISN's been a problem? We do not know what to do. But did they seek your help? Did they collaborate? I know that at one point of time we had a committee where we had ISN, MSN, where you represented, and then FAM was there, and then even MOE, Minister of Education, was part of it, so that we could collaborate. But I said that every time a minister changes, a new policy comes in, and the whole thing is thrown. A new FAM president comes in, the whole thing is dumped. Now, that is the reason why I think we are in the doldrums now. Now, your comment about them engaging with. See, I remember between 2000 and 2007, roughly, I was the director of youth development. I had 14 academies under my watch. In every state, there was one football academy where
Right.
players stayed in one school. They went to they stayed in one premise, but they went to different schools. They had food together. Nutrition was taken care of. We had engaged ourselves with the ISN of the respective states
Okay.
to help us do the battery of tests, to
Yeah.
do lots of things. And to go on record, ISN and MSN were really, really helpful.
Okay.
But said that
Yeah.
at one point of time, they stopped using their services.
Ah.
They stopped,
You mean-
the state FAs and FAM stopped using the services.
Oh, that's odd.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what I want to know. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear it
Okay.
from yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
why is it that there was a lack of engagement from the clubs and FAM?
Well, in a nutshell, most of the time you have to look at the coach.
Okay.
All right. Now,
Okay.
the coach can either be a strong one, believing in sports science,
Okay.
just like Mr. C. Paramalingam.
Okay.
He's a mature coach, you know.
Okay.
When he engaged me as to be the team doctor for him,
Mhm.
he just said, "Doctor, I'm a coach. I will tell you what I want with my training program and all that. But for the sports medicine, sports science, you please take care for me." He said like that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
In other words, he has engaged me to assist him
Okay.
in merging his coaching objectives,
Okay.
right, with my sports medicine and sports science input.
Okay.
All right. Now he knows especially since there was hardly any sports science and all that, right, in terms of the service, but he does actually embrace sports science because he knows that makes the difference.
Definitely.
That makes the difference. So now the problem is when you allow yourself as a coach and also as a sports scientist as well, when
Okay.
you're giving sports science, and if you're an administrator doing your job properly with all the policy, admin, and finance aspects, now if you let the politics of the whole thing get in the way, this is going to be a problem.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm not talking about mainstream politics, you know. All right.
Yeah.
What I'm talking is about politics as a concept,
Okay.
where you're not talking about objectivity, you know, facts, data, statistics. You're talking about smoke and mirrors games,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
people want to get ahead by using sports science,
Yeah.
right? Sports, both in the program management and also in the performance management, there are politicians, you know, they want to get ahead by not actually being a proper administrator or being a proper scientist.
Okay.
They just want to climb the ladder,
Okay.
right? Step over everybody's heads. This is the problem. So there is a way of doing this, and I will explain to you how I dealt with it because
Okay.
I struggled from 1990 to 2000 to 1996 when I became, director of the National Sports Institute.
Okay.
Then I became Director General of the National Sports Council. That helped a bit, right? Because I was head of the whole thing.
Okay.
And then later on, when we separated, because the National Sports Institute was separated from National Sports Council. That's
Yes,
why
I
it's a
was
separation of
also aware.
duties.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Otherwise, there'll be no proper focus on the situation.
Okay.
And when ISN was separated from MSN, our population of officers giving service was actually in a ratio of 4 to 3. You know, there were
Okay.
400 of us and only 300 of MSN.
Okay.
Can you imagine? Because we had to have those numbers to address all these other sports.
Okay.
The 8 or 10 sports that were prominent and important in the whole range of the national sports with the Ministry of Youth and Sport, right?
Yeah.
They have determined that these 8 to 10 sports.
Yeah. There was a time when we had the 8 core sports.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 8 core sports expanded to 10 actually, and now there's
Okay.
about 14, I think, because we have begun to make inroads in archery, you know, so many other sports that we have not been good at so many years ago. So
Okay.
when we have this, you have to find the right balance, you know. Of course, in the following, if we look at let's look at this first. because we need to understand this diagram in
Okay.
order to understand how we need to proceed to make it all hang together nicely. All
Okay.
right? Right. Now, whenever I'm at a meeting, okay, and I listen to other people talking, I can listen to the facts, figures, details, and all that. But the one question that is going to be hanging over them as I listen to them is this man or woman, right, really concerned about the athlete?
Okay.
Okay? In other words, what is it that you're saying and or what is it that you're doing going to help the athlete? How
Okay.
is it, what is it, how is it that what you say and do will help to facilitate and enhance the performance of the athlete? All right?
Okay.
Now, if that fundamental question is not answered to my mind, then I know this man or woman is playing smoke and mirrors games. It's all
Okay.
magic tricks. Because the fundamental, true, straight path is to always look at the athlete and his or her performance,
Okay.
right? And in
Okay.
this scenario, when you have the athlete, the coach, now we put that ISM, of course, that is sports science service, right? Right? Now, this is the core of the of the relationship. So if you look further down the track, we look at the philosophy of how this thing hangs together is because it is the athlete's performance, and the program is performance driven, and it's always athlete centered and led by the coach. So that's why the coach is the father of the whole program, not the ketua pengarah baju sukan, ketua pengarah institut sukan. None of these
Okay.
people, not the president, the secretary. Those are not within this circle, because this is the inner circle that has the most, the highest responsibility. I tell you, if something fails, the athlete kena kutuk, the coach will lose his job. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody else losing their jobs.
Dato, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
We are now, when you say performance driven, it is more to top level athletes. Yeah, we are looking at national athletes, athletes preparing for the Olympics, for the SEA Games, for the Asian Games, and
Not
whatnot.
not
Now,
necessarily. Not
okay, now
necessarily. Yeah.
let me rephrase the question.
Please.
How about, you see, you told earlier, you mentioned this, that if you are cycling and if you start cycling at the age of 6 or 7, you will
Yeah.
become a top cyclist at the age of 17, 18. But
Yeah.
if you only start cycling at the age of 16 or 17, then it takes you a longer time, because your concentration will be on something else.
Yeah.
When we want to concentrate on something else. So
Yes.
now, do you think our coaches are ready to what should I say, to put some input into sport science input into athletes while they are young? That's one.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Number two,
Yeah.
do we have enough? You see, the current club licensing regulations set forth by
Yeah.
AFC, FIFA, and now has come into Malaysian football and all Asian football clubs.
Okay.
One of the requirement is you must have qualified doctors, one sports medical personnel. Now,
Okay.
the sad part is some clubs still on paper, they have got the license, the club licensing done, because
Yeah.
they engage. I know many clubs for a match will just call a doctor who has got an MD.
Okay.
He comes in and
Yeah.
he's there, and then he after the game he says, this player is injured, send him to the hospital where I work, and
Uh-huh.
and he wants to look at it. And on paper, yes, they have a doctor, but honestly, it is not like when I had in FAM Dr. Ronnie Yo.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Ronnie Yo is entirely a medical doctor. When we had Siva Raja, who was our physiotherapist, who's in Tasmania now.
I know him. Oh,
Yeah,
Tasmania
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Okay.
He moved to Tasmania.
I see. I see.
So people who who are there with the athlete. So it is like your chart says athlete centered. The athlete has to be monitored every day, which a doctor who comes from outside will not be able to address. First of all, he is a general practitioner, not looking down at them, but there are a lot of things that footballers do, and this one who only a sports medicine doctor would be able to advise compared to a general practitioner.
Right.
My third question is, how many do we have enough medical sports science people, scientists out there, so that these clubs, not only professional clubs but non-professional clubs, can engage them, so that our kids can go through a regime of training and do not carry injuries, because many of them carry injuries that are not visible to the naked eye, but it is there hidden, and it doesn't help in their performance much later at all.
Okay, so you've got a 3-part question.
Yes.
So I'll try to get all 3 parts down
in one. Okay.
So let me put it this way. To sort of encapsulate all the 3 points together. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
The most important thing is that I actually serve as attachment supervisor for master students in sports medicine from UC Malaya as well.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I've done that. I was examiner for the master's program as well.
Okay.
So I can tell you that the one question that remains nagging in my mind. So whenever I see them during the attachment, when they do their what we call their gazettement, okay, they have to undergo 6-month practical, and part of the time they have to in internship. They have to do in the National Sports Institute, all right, and also attachment when they were doing the course. I asked them, are you doing sports medicine or are you doing medicine in sports?
Okay.
All right. Why do I ask this question? Because if you do medicine in sports, there's so many other doctors who can do this, right? We have not seen the need to spend 4 years to specialize in sports medicine and still go back to becoming a general practitioner, orthopedic surgeon, or whatever thing that they're doing to serve within sport, within their whatever specific or general function that they have.
Yeah.
To be a sports medicine practitioner is not just the clinical aspect of treating, preventing, treating, and rehabilitating sports injuries and sports-related conditions.
Okay.
It is also about understanding how you lock in and merge your clinical acumen and services together with all the other physical, physiological, nutritional, psychological aspects, biomechanics, right? That is sports medicine. To do that, not only you have to have a firm grasp of the fundamentals of your own profession as a doctor, you also need to know, okay, to such a deep extent, how do you figure in the whole scheme of things with the athlete's performance with these other sports science modalities? You see?
Okay.
So this is the thing. So if you look at my life, when I was, practicing before my retirement, in the morning, I'm with the team, right? When I return from about 7 to 9, then I return, I have meetings, and then I'll see patients, from 10 to 1, things like that. I see more patients in the afternoon, then I run further meetings at 3 o'clock, that sort of thing. So I have a multifaceted life, because I'm also doing the administration, as well. So, but if you're not doing the administration, that means you are doing this thing on the field and also in the clinic. You cannot be stuck in the clinic waiting for people to come to you with problems. Now, if you're a team doctor, you're worth any salt, you'll be out there in the morning when they are training and you can watch injuries about to happen. Either it is a traumatic injury because they get banged up and all that. In hockey, they get banged up all the time, with the heart, they have a stick and the ball. That's the thing.
It's a contact sport.
Exactly. A lot of injuries happen in training as well,
Yes.
Right? And you have to be there. And sometimes you can spot certain anomalies, certain errors in movement, right? In the execution of certain techniques that can give rise to certain injuries,
That's right.
If it is repeated, because the one injury that we do not wish to see, traumatic injuries, we know. You get tackled, tear your ACL, Okay? Anterior cruciate ligament, fine. But if you get injured because you're not training properly, both in the gym and also on the field,
Okay.
right? You are
Yes.
trained to get injured, you see,
Okay.
right? For that to happen, you must be on the training ground to
Yep.
be present.
Yeah.
So if any of these sports medicine doctors are not engaged in any of this work, then they're not sports medicine doctors.
Well said. Okay. Good.
So that is the thing I'm asking. But they don't have time. Right now, all of them are cooped up in the general hospitals, right?
Okay.
In the orthopedics department,
Okay.
assisting the orthopedic surgeons when they should be out there on their own in their own department, sports medicine.
Okay. Okay.
Because what we offer for the national athletes, we are supposed to offer for the sports for all athlete, for the
Okay.
recreational athlete, because that is only the stage. The stage is different, but the fundamentals and the need of the athlete is always the same. It's just the
Okay.
intensity and the time frame is different. All right, the level is different, but the fundamentals are always the same for everybody. That's why when I nowadays I see both private and also national athletes.
Okay.
Okay, because the institute has engaged me for clinic once a week, and it is part of their Pusat Perubatan Sukan Negara. All right,
Okay.
which I initiated before my retirement. Now they have they have followed through, and they have established the Pusat Perubatan Sukan Negara, which actually opens national level sports medicine to the man on the street.
All right. Excellent. Okay. That's what I wanted
Okay,
to ask.
this is
Okay.
important. You know why? Because your need might be different in terms of the sport, the level, the intensities, the time frame, the scheduling is different, but your aspiration is still the same. You want to either you go for competition and you want to win, all right, or you want to maintain a certain standard that you aspire to, or at the very least you want to enjoy your sport, right, without getting injured, without the problems in the sport holding you back, holding
Okay.
your enjoyment back. You see, so you're working at different levels, different dimensions, but everybody should get the best out of sports medicine.
So two questions comes out from what you have said.
Yeah.
Access to a sport scientist or a sport doctor
Yeah.
out away from Kuala Lumpur. Let's say somebody in Kanga, Perlis, a player who wants to see a sports doctor. Do they have access to a sports physiologist or a sports doctor or whoever? Like you said, here in Kuala Lumpur, it's not an issue because ISN is in Kuala Lumpur. You can go to Bukit Jalil. We can
I have to
have
say,
access. Yeah.
you see, the population, because every year the final exams for the Masters in Sports Medicine is about 4 or 5 people. All right.
Okay.
So the population is growing, but these
Alright.
people are all going to the general hospitals.
Okay.
You know, for the start, that is fine. But last time, you remember when you were, you had the advantage of service and help from the ISN's
Yes.
at the States, okay?
Yep.
The reason why we do that is because we are also engaging sports science officers. So sports science officers, they have to learn the ropes. They cannot be going to the National Sports Institute in Bukit Jalil and suddenly work from there. Yes, they are indoctrinated at the national level in Kuala Lumpur, but then they're sent out to learn the ropes, because that's the best education, the best university for them. They spend 4 years in university, and to be honest with you, they're still not ready.
All right.
They're still not ready. They have to spend 1 to 3 years with us before they're ready. Because what they do is they have so many lectures, they've read so many books, but they've only had 6 to 8 weeks of practical or industry training.
Okay.
Right? Now, when they have 1 to 3 years of on the job, training and mentoring by senior officers of the National Sports Institute.
Real time based, yeah?
Exactly, because this is a practice. This is nothing. This is not, this is not a theoretical framework issue.
Okay.
So we don't have enough doctors yet, but the numbers are growing.
Okay.
I will tell you that I am basically waiting for the day when there are so many sports medicine doctors out there, and suddenly the general hospitals do not have enough jobs for them. And suddenly these people have to go out, right? Set up private practices, or the senior ones will go out, the younger ones will replace them at the general hospitals.
Okay.
And then the older ones will set up their own, and then they will engage the sports that they are interested in. Football, hockey, badminton, squash, whatever it may be. So when you
Because I
have
get
that, yes?
because I get many questions from a lot of coaches away from Kuala Lumpur telling me, Coach, I've got a player who's injured. Do I have to come to ISN to Kuala Lumpur? Do I have to set an appointment? So I say, why don't you go to the nearest ISN? Dia kata, tak ada lah, coach, sekarang dah tak ada lagi.
No. You know what the problem was?
Hmm.
I left in 2016.
Okay.
At that point, we had satellite centers in all the states in Peninsular
Yes,
Malaysia.
yes,
Even
I am
Perlis.
aware of that. Yeah.
Then we had 3 in Sabah, 2 in Sarawak. But when I ended my time as the CEO of ISN in 2016.
Okay.
My successors reviewed the situation. Right now, I have things to say about this, which I think this will not be the proper forum for that.
Fair enough.
But since 2016 until now, only now they are addressing this thing. You see why? Because when you have so many sports science graduates coming out as well, many of them will have to find work outside sports science.
Yeah.
They have to. Yeah, they have to go to other industries, other professions to make a living. So, but now, last time, our greatest partners were the Majlis Sukan Negeri, the state sports councils.
Okay.
And I tell you, we had a good time working with Sabah Sports Council, Sarawak Sports Council, Penang Sports Council, Johor Sports Council, and these are they were the paragons of this service with us.
Okay.
And when my successors when they reviewed, they had to close all these centers. They wanted to make regional centers. So whatever happened, there were so many people who lost their jobs.
I see.
At state level. So the states like Sabah, Sarawak, Johor, right, Penang, the state sports councils were good enough to absorb them.
Okay.
So this is actually a good development. Why? Because that was the original intention. It is not the intention of the National Sports Institute to be holding this without the proper investment by the state sports councils. All right. In the beginning, it was more of a National Sports Institute, sponsored arrangement. But we knew in due course, each state, in trying to safeguard their own best interest in trying to achieve success in sports, all right, they have to fend for themselves. And after spending the time with the National Sports Institute, then it is time for them to set up their own sports science, sports medicine setups at each respective state.
On their own?
On their own.
Okay.
Right now, Sabah, Sarawak, Johor, Penang, they are under their own respective sports councils, which is good.
Okay.
I feel that is a good development. All right.
So Dato', I served.
I have to say that the manner was fortuitous. It wasn't done as a planning. It just happened to be that way. But if there had not been, let's say, if the state sports council were not in a position to uptake, to take up all these people who lost their jobs at ISM as the satellite centers, then we would have lost a whole cadre of promising young sports scientists.
One example that comes to my mind is my first posting as a teacher was to Sarawak, and Sarawak is such a huge state, but every time a player, I've seen many players being lost to injury, good athletes, good footballers whom I think would have made national material, but we lost to injuries because if you go, I was somewhere in Ulu Baram, where nearest town was Miri, and when a player, I played in Miri, so when you are injured, there are not many. I myself, for that matter, I had a groin injury, and then I couldn't. They told me to go to Kuching, and when I come to Kuching, you got to set an appointment and this and that. And being a teacher at that point of time, it was tough. I had to come back to KL for treatment. Lucky at that point when I went, I was already engaged with the FAM. So when I came back, Dr. Paul was there. So we had Dr. Ronnie Yole have a look at me and that sort of thing. But I had the benefit of knowing these people and I could be treated. There could be many like me who could not be treated and would have left the game. I was only about 25, 26 then with a groin injury and left untreated. You would have ended a career. So that's the reason why I'm voicing out to say that it should be reachable by the layman, or like what you said, a man on the street. That's number one. Second thing, I want to ask you I won't ask you how expensive, how cheap is a private treatment? If a guy, if I like say I have an injury, a groin injury, a nagging groin injury, and I want to go and see a sports medicine, a doctor, a sports doctor. How much would it cost that? Because some of our clubs are barely relying on have money to spend. That's the reason why a lot of them go to private clinics and just look at a general practitioner and whatever he says goes. But I feel there's more to it. So what would you say?
Well, I tend to look at things from on a needs basis.
Okay.
Right. Then you look at the cost.
Okay.
Okay, because if you look at the cost, then you might end up spending money, you might not still get what you need, you see.
Okay.
You might not still get what you need.
Okay.
So in terms of the cost, there are several different levels. Let's say, for example, if I see a patient, yes, as a professional, I'm a licensed professional, I can waive, I can see people for free.
Okay.
No trouble. It's just that I'm not getting any money.
Okay.
But the clinic that I'm practicing at, they need to make money.
Okay.
To continue to operate. Otherwise, this is not a welfare situation. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when if I can say I can see this, of course I can spend 10 minutes, half an hour with any athlete at any level. All right. And I'll just say that, may God bless me, and that's I don't have to make money. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
But they have to do at least an X-ray.
Okay.
Right? So when they do a basic, a baseline X-ray, that's what nowadays 30, 40, 50 ringgit.
Okay.
And then when there's some X-ray and we cannot find anything in X-ray, sometimes you don't see anything in X-ray. It doesn't mean that there's nothing.
Yeah.
You have to look further. So sometimes you might need to do further investigations in radiology. So you send them to the radiologist, and at the very least, if we can get away with an ultrasound, musculoskeletal ultrasound scan, which is about 50 to 80 ringgit.
Okay, that's right.
That's right. Right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, I get away with it. You know why?
Okay.
Not because I sit there and I send them off. It's because I go with them to see the radiologist, and I sit down with the radiologist. I work it out with the radiologist.
Okay. That is engaging yourself with the athlete and with his problems. That's good. Exactly. But how many of them will do that though?
Because the athlete has to develop trust for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So when I sit with the radiologist, whomever that person may be, I have a few that I work with, because I know when we work constantly, then they're easy with me. We can be straightforward, we can be honest with each other. All right?
Okay.
There's no ego involved. Okay? Because the most important thing is the best interest of the patient.
Okay.
Not our egos.
All right.
Right? Okay. Even if we're wrong, we need to be right for the patient.
Okay.
Okay, so when I go see there, and then the radiologist will show me, oh, Ramlan, look at this. Oh, then I also learn, and then he will also learn, because I'll give him the background, the medical background, with my examinations and all that. So we sort of work in tandem to work it out so that we can get the most accurate diagnosis that we can.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to get the correct, accurate diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we might be working up the right tree, but we are getting the wrong branch.
Yeah.
You know what? Yes.
Yeah.
This is the issue.
It happened many times.
Oh, at the end of the day, you have to, after that, you have to start treatment, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's the same concept with both sports science and sports medicine. Okay. Now, in clinical aspect, what I would do is I have to make changes, okay, to the training program. It's not just about treatment, it's not just about Voltaren or whatever. That is the easiest thing to do. Anybody can do that. But has to look at study the training program to see where is this overload happening.
Yeah.
Where is this repetitive overload happening?
let me
Uh,
just stop there.
okay.
This is what Dato just said is
Hmm.
exactly what people out there
Uh,
must realize why you need a sports scientist and a sports doctor with you, because
yeah.
they have to follow up, they have to win the trust, they have to follow through, they have to reschedule your training, they have to
Mhm.
advise you. That means it takes a lot more than what currently current some clubs are doing,
Why not?
engaging. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. Yeah,
Follow.
it is a pointer that you all you people out there, all the clubs, professional clubs or amateur clubs, please take note of this, what Dato just said, that it is not the same. You don't just pass the bucket to somebody else by saying that, yeah, he has seen a doctor. Which doctor? That's my question. Yeah, that's
You
why I
see,
brought on this topic. Thank you, Dato. Yes,
you
please
know,
go ahead.
if I may just expand a bit,
Yeah,
you see, when you deal with youngsters, because most
yeah,
athletes are young,
yeah,
right? They do not want to get better tomorrow.
yeah,
Not even today. They want to get better yesterday.
yeah. That's right.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's a bit funny to say that.
yeah,
But you see, in gaining their trust, you have to also gain the coach's trust,
yeah.
right? Because sometimes not all athletes are honest, about their injuries.
Yes.
Sometimes they make too much of it for some reason we do not know.
Yeah,
But I'm not there to work out their psychological issues. I'm,
yeah,
I'm there to determine what is wrong with you.
yeah.
If the signs don't match up, okay, then there has to be a point when I have to sit down with the athlete and the coach.
Okay.
All right. Later on, there might be instances where I may have to discuss one-on-one with the coach because there might be certain issues that I do not wish for the or the athlete to hear.
Okay.
All right, because we do not wish for people to be losing faith in their coaches.
Yeah.
But coaches need to understand that sometimes they may feel that I'm holding them back. I'm the
Hmm.
enemy. Why am I
Hmm.
asking this player to rest,
Okay.
right? To go to be away from training and all that. I tell them basically that the treatment and rehabilitation is part of training.
Okay.
Training to get better, to return to partial training, and then to full training and on to competition.
Yeah.
All right. So I am the coach's best friend. It's just that as a best friend, I'm not there to tell them what they want to hear. I will tell them what they need to hear about what their player needs to do.
Okay.
Right? So to do this, there must be with a sports medicine doctor a certain command of communication, all
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and a feel for the push and pull of people relating to each other.
Yeah.
This is cannot we cannot. The worst thing that can happen is, "Oh, I'm the doctor. You have to listen to me. I'm the one
Yeah.
with the license." No,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one is the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah. Of course.
Right? So the most important thing for us is to engage both the player and the coach, and engage both the player and the coach to look at the
Okay.
training program to see where the overload, the repetitive or the excessive overload is, to make the right changes. Because in the end, if it's just about giving treatment, doing surgery and all that, this is where athletes fail to come back. They fail to capture the sort of performance that they had found themselves in, they have developed over years, and then they will go downward slope, and then they're lost. So the athlete and the coach must both have confidence in the sports medicine doctor that we care for the outcome of our treatment. It is not just
Okay.
a matter of this is my treatment, the success or the failure depends on you.
Okay.
Of course, there must be the maximum investment and commitment from the athlete, especially, and of course,
Okay.
right level of commitment from the coach.
Okay.
Because the coach cannot, of course, he has other non-injured players to train. He cannot be thinking about the injured player.
Yeah.
So he has to trust me and also the physiotherapist, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And so the team physiotherapist becomes the intermediary.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't get to see the coach all the time.
Okay.
So the team physiotherapist is the one who communicates. He's the go-between,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
So this quality of relationship between coach, team physiotherapist, myself, my own physiotherapist at the National Sports Institute,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
player. This is the art okay, of delivering the science
Okay.
of sports medicine.
Okay.
So I hope that is clear.
Yep. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the fundamentals. Now, I do not wish to belabor this point, but if we are not putting the right emphasis on the athlete performance as the end all and be all, this
Okay.
is the whole universe is because of this.
Yeah.
Let me try to move this right. Okay then. That means whatever we do, okay, with sports science, sports medicine, when we train people, we have two major objectives,
Okay.
right? The first objective is to improve performance, correct?
Yeah.
Physically, physiologically, so on and so forth. But another one, there's another facet, which is to prevent injuries. If we improve performance and prevent injuries, then we're getting the maximum out of the process. Because if not, if we don't manage it well, that's why we're calling this minimizing process losses.
Okay.
Because sometimes certain administrative delays and all that will lead to this. And all of this is done all together to maximize, to optimize the gains we get, the small time marginal gains that we get to get ahead.
Okay.
Person by person, group by group, team by team. And then we must also know what is it that we're good at and what is it we're not good at, what is it that we're weak at, because we must address both strength and weaknesses. You cannot be trying to find with a fine-tooth comb and say, oh, you're weak here, you're weak there. You must always enhance your own strengths as well, not just trying to cover your weakness. Because if you understand what you're strong at and you address your weaknesses, that is a way to gain sustainable success. Otherwise, it will be just success on a incremental basis, occasional basis.
Yeah.
This is what we mentioned just now about starting young, because there's a certain philosopher who said the end depends on the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. Of course.
There you go. So we can accept this. And then
Yep.
another thing that coaches, administrators, association, bigwigs and all that must understand, it is not the project, it is not the management project. It is a human project. The athlete is a subject, right?
Yeah.
The athlete is a project. Because you want to form pathways to success, then for sustainability of success, where you can repeat it again and again, instead of getting something by chance. Maknanya, instead of doing things because of your good deeds, your good programs, your good, action and decisions, you're doing things by making dodgy decisions, half-hearted, half-baked, situations. Then you're doing things, you're getting success in spite of all this weakness, not because of your strength. Okay? So you must always remember that every athlete, if you have a team, you have 25 of them in a squad, you have 25 success on the same big pathway for the whole team.
Definitely.
Right? Now this slide I have to show you because this is the key to whether you succeed physically, physiologically, and also injury-wise.
Okay.
Because to get progress in physiological progress, you cannot be adapting to a very low load.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You must try to get the sort of overload and adapt to it.
Okay.
But at the same time, because if you don't overload, then you're not getting progress. But at the same time, the secret of adapting to the overload is recovery. Without recovery, you might be overloaded to such an extent that you either overtrain or you get injured. All right?
Okay.
So this adaptation to overload is all about getting it right. Okay? And it's not the same at all times because it will change. It's a dynamic situation, but the principle is still the same.
Okay, Datuk, I have a question on that. Now, as both of us are aware that many young clubs cannot afford a sports scientist or a sports doctor and so on, and hence many coaches take it upon themselves to administer the coach the coaching, the programs, the physiological programs, and so on. Yeah. Now, from my experience as a coach educator, working with FIFA, AFC, and FAM, and the outcome of a coaching course when the students sit for the exams, and I've examined thousands of candidates throughout my career as a coach educator. The only thing that stands out is when it comes to the sport science component. When a question comes out on a sport science component, most of them falter. Most of them succumb to I would say lack of knowledge. If you ask them, you mentioned about loading. If you look at, if a question comes out on the energy system, the phosphate system, lactic acid system, if you ask questions on the components of physical fitness, how do you increase speed? How do you improve endurance? How do you improve the aerobic capacity, the anaerobic capacity? They collapse. I do not know whether there is a lack in the syllabus addressing these issues. But I've seen the syllabus. It is really in detail. Or on the other hand, the lack of coach educators. Because see, when I share with you, when I did my UEFA A coaching license in Germany, Cologne.
Okay.
For this specific topic, we had a sports scientist and a sports doctor present. Whereas in Malaysia, this is my personal experience being an FAM coaching instructor. The coaches themselves attempt to teach the candidates or the young coaches on what they know. I find that not right, because eventually those people who graduate or pass, or rather finish the course, they make the damage. This is where wrong loading, wrong methodology of training, wrong addressing of all this sport science aspect of it, and much more damage, Dato, is a thought that with due respect to all national and ex-national state players and so on who have played at the highest level, I have the utmost respect, but good players need not be good coaches. When they say, he's an ex-player, he's ex-international, he should be, he may be able to coach technically, but I think from the sports science aspect, they fail. So this is Malaysia's problem, Dato. I can see, or rather, when even I conducted courses in Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia, this is the area where Southeast Asia lacks. What's your take on it?
Well, nobody can be a master of all, right? That's for
absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely.
Right. When you are a head coach or one of the coaches, even when you're a coach and you have a coaching team, the head coach will of course draw the program in conjunction with the input from all the other coaches, all his friends, colleagues within the coaching team. But you find that there's certain coaches who specialize. You have the goalkeeping coach, right?
Yes.
Right. It's a very specialist situation nowadays.
Coach.
As what I've seen in hockey, they have a coach who teaches how strikers should train, right? How midfielders should train. So the two areas, striking, how to score goals, and how to keep goal. That's what it started with. But the fact of the matter is now, coaching is not a management or an art per se, all right? Coaching is already a scientific venture.
Okay.
All right? Yep. And the minimum, even the best of coaches, I have been working with coaches such as all the badminton coaches, right?
Okay.
And then like John Beasley, the cycling coach.
Yes.
Coach for Azizul Hasni. Yeah. I worked with him for many years.
Okay.
At the beginning, when I was the CEO of ISM, he said every year, doctor, this is my training program. He threw me, that thick,
Uh-huh.
such a thick document of
Uh-huh.
what he wants as a training program. Then
Okay.
I'll sit down with my colleagues from all the various areas of sports science in ISM.
Uh-huh.
This is just for Azizul Hasni. Then there'll be
Okay.
another one for another cyclist. All right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for each cyclist, there's one thick
Yeah,
manual.
very specific.
Very specific.
Okay.
So then, because every athlete, you cannot have a cookbook recipe approach by having one recipe for all athletes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now, then I have to spend about 2 to 3 weeks gathering all of this, and then we throw back to him, Coach John, this is our manual for sports science. So his training manual and our test evaluation and reporting manual is then merged. That together is the training program.
Okay.
Because you cannot have the training program, the coach, right? Sometimes from the administrative standpoint, the program is nothing to do with the actual development of the performance. It's all about schedules. It's all about going for this competition, going for that tour, right? Train
Okay.
here,
Okay.
compete there, take this bus, take that plane. These are all itineraries,
Okay.
right? When you have a training program, that is not a training program. That is a calendar. The training
Okay.
program is the calendar on a day-to-day basis, all these macro cycles, micro cycles that we then input with all the scientific inputs. That is the training program. When you
Absolutely.
understand it like that, then this is a very complex balance thing, not only for the whole team, but also for every member of the team, every
Yeah.
type of player.
Yeah.
And then there's also the injury management situation.
Yeah.
All right. Now, one of the weakest areas I found over the years, apart from the sports science adoption and how we practice and how we coordinate these things, how people how we assess it, is actually injury management.
Yeah.
That is the biggest issue. Now, let me just dwell on this. For example, sometimes we want the outcome so much that we forget about mastering, okay, performance mastery. For us to
Okay.
master our performance, you really have to go through several processes, right?
Yep.
And then we ourselves, if we want world-class football players, right? Never mind world-class, Asian class.
Asian class. Okay.
Asian class, huh? Okay. Then we need to have at least Asian class sports science support, Asian class coaches, right?
Yeah.
Asian class management, and you go step up to world class. You cannot expect to have world class athletes and players without you yourself aspiring to be world class.
Of course.
You have to educate yourself,
Yeah.
right? You have to
Yeah.
open up your mind. You have to always have the right intentions and the right way of getting about your intentions executed.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And not to have any hidden agendas, so on and so forth. If you look at this diagram, you can see how many, just one athlete, how many people are chasing
Yeah.
all this help.
Yeah.
Healthcare, injury management, performance enhancement, testing, monitoring, and then educating them, making sure that their lifestyle lends itself very well to their development as players, maintenance of their form and capability, and then of course doing all the research and innovation and all the technological discoveries that we need to do to get the upper hand to be one step ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
you see this picture before.
Yeah.
If you look at all the processes, you can see where it starts, where we have the program workshop, and we go through all the various components. And then when we execute this thing, we have to have evaluation at certain junctures, at periodic junctures, to make sure that we're on the right track. Okay? There's a lot of work. There's a lot of balancing over here. So then, once you get this blend, you have to look at the injury management as well. Make sure that whenever there is a nigger, do not neglect this thing.
Okay.
Let us try to put the fire while it is small.
Yeah.
All right?
Exactly.
Let's not
Exactly.
let's not allow this thing to be a raging forest fire, destroying half of the country.
Yeah.
Or you're going to spit on it. Okay? This is the problem. When the fire is big, now we try to spit on it. We're not even ready to address the fire. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all these sports sciences, in ISN, now the question that you put just now, we cannot afford all these things, but we are at least recognizing that these things are needed. To recognize that these things are needed, then you develop. Then you can apportion your budgeting, your spending, your development towards the right ingredients. You cannot be having half-hearted measures, half-baked situations where you always shortchange the athlete and his performance.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
You're not doing the coach any favors. And in the end, the coach has to bear all of this responsibility, and he or she will lose the job, you see?
Yeah.
So that all this various sports science, not only for testing and all things, but also, of course, we monitor, we do reports and all that. So there's so many things to do. And then we put in research as well, so that we always try to be ahead of the opposition. Now, to put all of this together, that's why we call integration. Now, it's all a complex mix, getting that fine balance so that we can get all these marginal gains to be ahead of the competition, you see.
Okay.
And then just now we looked at this talent identification model.
Yeah.
This was a project that we started in 2015,
Okay.
hopefully. But this is the encapsulation, maybe the summary of these things before we move to the issues and challenges that we alluded to briefly before. The athlete is the center of this particular universe, all right? Surrounded by the coach, performance support personnel, and there are other things that the athlete has in his life, work, study. They also have social circles, friends, people that they like to mix around with. They have family, and of course, people in management that everybody has to work in tandem to support the athlete. Because in the end, when the athlete is successful, everybody wants to take a photograph with him, correct?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to bask in reflected glory. Suddenly, I want to take pictures. Do you know how many pictures I can count in the fingers of my right hand, the number of pictures I have with all the top champions that I've worked with? Because I've always forgotten to take a picture.
Okay.
Either I forget to bring a camera, or when I have a camera, I cannot bother because I'm doing work.
Okay. Yeah.
And then other people are busy taking other photographs, so I hardly have any photographs. There are one or two, but enough to say that I have lived such a life. Now, if you look at this thing, if you look at the who and what's of the whole thing, right? We started with this thing about the fundamentals. Now let's look at the issues and challenges. Now we have these personalities. Of course, we've talked about the athlete and the coach, and then we've talked further about in detail what do we expect of performance support personnel, the management, and other things, including politics in sports. Okay, let's look at it. So we've talked about this just now. Okay, now let's look at the player. Now, is a player a good athlete? We mentioned just now about skill development, skill attainment, and all that.
Yeah.
But if the athlete is not strong, durable enough to not only execute the skill, but also to execute the skill with balance, right? With a certain poise, so that you don't become injured. Because sometimes you have the skill, but sometimes if you're not fit enough, you may overstress your hamstrings, so on and so forth. There's so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
So being a good athlete is not just about performing well. It's about being strong enough to avoid injuries.
Yep.
Because once you get injured, you're never going to perform at your top level.
Yes.
Not likely. Impossible. All right?
Yeah.
No amount of mental strength is going to achieve that. I tell you, sometimes people overcook this thing about mental strength,
Yeah.
People say an athlete is mentally weak. They do not know that athlete is suffering an injury, right? Having a stomach bug, right? Having a heartache because the girlfriend left him. I don't know. Right? So many things can happen. We are saying, because he's mentally weak. It's so easy to say that an athlete lacks mental strength without actually analyzing what is it that is ailing this athlete.
Of course.
And then what about talent versus attitude? How many times have you seen a talented athlete having a bad attitude? I think we've lost the number of times. But the marriage of a super talent and a super attitude will get a super athlete. No doubt about that. And then, of course, the character, personality. I've seen so many children having, at an adult age, Sometimes even their underwear, they'll send back home for their mothers to wash. So these are the sort of things. That means you must man up, all right? The players that we had a long time ago, the Mokhtar Daharis, the Sochin Ans, the Arumugams, they're all men, when they even before they became adults. Responsibility for their life. They cook everything without having to whine or to complain about, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't get enough money, I'm not going to disco enough in the week or something. I do not know. So the player cannot be just aware of the need for sports science, He must believe it. For him to say, I'm aware of sport, everybody is aware that sports is important. But do you believe how it is to your performance? That is the biggest question. I don't think it is. Because you're just saying this as a lip service because everybody does it. So, it's like everybody wears pants. So let's wear pants. But what sort of pants are you wearing? We do not know. Now, the desire, determination, discipline, resolve, everybody must have. And this thing about
it is also the surrounding that actually that this athlete is in, that makes them. I've had an example. I remember doing some work in Australia, and they have a clinic, and the way they do things, it is very, very professional and so on. Compared to our athletes, when the coaches themselves say, masa saya dulu mana ada sport science, semua boleh pun, you orang semua ni mentally tak kuat lah. Exactly as what you said lah. So,
you see, we are a product of a society.
Yeah, exactly.
Our coaches can say that because their schooling was different.
Yep.
Their parents were tougher.
Of course, right? of course.
The life, the society was different at that point.
Yeah, everything was different.
If you fast forward now,
right,
we are no longer that society,
Yeah, definitely not.
We're no longer a society. If a teacher scolds a student, the parents will come banging away at the door, trying to attack the teacher. Nowadays, okay? And your mother and my mother, if the teacher was to complain to her, we will get,
we'll get more.
additional retribution.
Exactly.
So the thing about that is that's why I say we are all a cross-section of society at large. What happens in society will affect us.
It's a reflection.
We forget that if we have the right leadership, a team from sport, we are able to influence society for the better,
Yeah, definitely.
Because if anybody wins a gold medal, he or she will inspire other people to play sport. Some of those youngsters will become future champions. Others who are not at a level to become national athletes, they will love sports for health, fitness, recreation. Okay? Crime is prevented. It helps crime prevention, social development, youth development. Society becomes better. So that's why I am in sports medicine, my friend. I'm not sports medicine to get rich. Right? If I want to get rich, sports medicine will be the last discipline because we struggle. We struggle, right? And I have lost count of the number of times and occasions when I actually give a lot of free advice where other people would have just say, come and see me at my clinic or my office, and then I'll charge you later, or I will send you the bill. Like that. So the most important thing is that we must understand this is always a struggle. And the biggest, most important struggle is how to shape this player. Yes. Because to shape this player, we must start at the earliest possible stage. We cannot be started after Sugma. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cannot, because they'll be beyond their puberty and then they'll be very resistant, difficult to get them to bend. Now, what about the coaches? I always ask coaches, Coach, you have wanted to become a coach all this time? And then they'll say, because, as a player, it is a natural progression to become a coach. All right? But sometimes you don't understand that coaching is a human endeavor. It is not a technical endeavor. You can get all the knowledge, all the information from all the sources. I remember last time when you said, last time there's no sports science. I beg to differ. You don't recognize it as sports science. I remember having a discussion with Tan Sri Mani Jagatesan, our champion. Yes. I said at that time he was chef de mission to the Malaysian team at the Olympics in Athens. So we had a bit of free time, we had some coffee. I said, Tan Sri, last time, how do you manage, without sports science, all those years ago? And then he said, you know what he said? He said, Ramlan, I know there were no people like you during my time, right? But don't say there was no sports science. There was sports science. But this sports science wasn't taught by people like you. It was taught by coaches. Because they practiced it. They developed it. Whatever they do, they will actually adopt a scientific method. The scientific method, is not only for scientists. It involves tests, measures, and then making adjustments, and then documentation. Writing it down, talking to other people. So Tan Sri Jaga actually talked to so many coaches, and these coaches giving him information. So he developed his own method of training together with his, because his father was also advising him at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So he developed his own manner of training together with a coach that looked after him. But at the same time, he himself was his own sports scientist, you see.
Okay.
So he said there were no sports scientists like you, but there was sports science from the beginning.
Okay.
Because this is a scientific method that any coach at any point, at any field, at any level can do. All right? Only thing is, you must have a thirst for knowledge and the hunger to learn and to apply this knowledge. Not just to get the certificate and put it on the wall.
Yeah.
Say that I'm level 1, level 2, level 3.
Many of them do that.
I teach level 3 science for the National Coaching Accreditation course, okay?
Okay.
So I made this point. I said, are we a collector of coaching certificates now?
Yep.
Right? Or are we really trying to live the life that we ought to live? We don't have to be sports scientists like the specialists for each level, tapi we have to be a general sports scientist in a sense. Because we have to change it from just an art of coaching to the science of coaching.
Okay.
So things like making reports, documenting things, working out measures of loading, yes? When do we recover? And then whether the load is light, medium, or or heavy, and how you work out the macrocycles, microcycles. This is the point that you have to all get to grasp and master as much as you want the athlete to master the skills and the technical abilities that they're supposed to do. You yourself to master this, and you cannot master this by just having that certificate. That certificate opens the door.
Yes. It doesn't take you to the end.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely.
Your worth is by brandishing all the certificates that you've got, right? Look, my certificates say that I'm a great coach, but that your profession demands results.
Yeah, that brings to the point that even the coach education system, the D, the C, the B, and the A, a lot of our coaches, after attaining the licenses, they stop. Like you said, it is just the tip of the iceberg. You got to start reading, and one of the areas that I find, Dato, is their lack of reading and writing in English, because most of the books, the top class books on sports science and so on, are in English. So that is another setback for especially Malaysian coaches, where language barrier has become a big issue, where they cannot read. They got to wait for translated text and so on, Yep, agreed with whatever you said. That's the reason why our coach education has not progressed further.
That's always the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the thing is, you and I are both involved in some measure, right? You, of course, on overall in a much more involved level. I'm just sort of an instructor. But both of us are Malaysians. So we teach Malaysians. The textbooks are always more often than not in English.
Yes.
Right? I hesitate to make easy translations from English to Bahasa Malaysia and all that, simply because sometimes there might be some meaning lost in translation.
That's right.
Okay? That's why all the religious books are in the original language, Quran is in Arabic language. If you change it to Malay to get the meaning, yes, to understand, but sometimes you have to understand, you have to adopt Arabic, right? Fully embrace, understand to the minutest detail. To get the right. So, but having said that, sometimes you don't read things, you show things, because coaching is a practice. It is not a theoretical construct where everybody has to show that I know more than you. Right? You must know, and then when you practice it, then you get the meaning of what you're supposed to know. So it all boils down to how, when you do the syllabus, right, you must also work out how is this person going to become a practicing coach. Best practicing coach. And to be honest with you, I made this point yesterday in another forum. I was giving a keynote speech. I was saying that many a time the development coach is more important than the national coach.
Yep, definitely. Definitely.
Yes,
Totally agree. Yes.
this is universally agreed.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to differ with me, we can debate later.
Yeah,
Okay?
I don't know. Agreed. That is the key. That is the
Exactly.
foundation.
Yeah,
If you
we
don't have a foundation, how are you going to excel?
did we not say the end depends on the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, the national coach is a refined coach. I
Yeah.
want you to refine all of this. But the basics must all be there. By the time they get to the national coach will thank the development coach.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for getting me this superb athlete so that I
Yeah.
don't have to struggle to teach everything back to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So, so I feel that this human endeavor, the coaches themselves, the athletes will require mentoring from the coach, but the
Yeah.
coaches have to get mentoring from senior coaches.
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the problems in developing sports medicine in this country, a man like me, all right? Do you know, after all these years, with the masters, programs and all that, only 2 master students, when they graduate, they actually seek me out, you know,
Mm.
in some
Mm.
mentorship from me. They actually
Wow.
seek me out. They say, Datuk Ramlan, can you help me? I want you to become my mentor. I'll be working here, but can I maintain touch with you so that I can continue to discuss things, to get some guidance from you? Only
Mm.
2
Mm.
out of several hundred now, only 2.
Mm. Mm.
And these are the 2 people who understood when I asked them immediately, what is the difference between sports medicine and medicine in sports? They understood
Okay.
instantly. The others, when I say, what is the difference between sports medicine, medicine and sports, they will ask, they will shoot back, isn't that the same? Is sports medicine, medicine sports? Then I know that I'm going to struggle with these people. All right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I cannot give up. Okay? I have to
Yeah.
show them the
Yeah.
way. And out of that number, many will get this point eventually. But the problem is, even if the coaches or athletes get this point, within sports scientists, even sports medicine practitioners,
Yeah.
the point is, are you willing to put in the elbow grease? Because it takes a lot of effort,
Yeah.
to become that level of sports medicine practitioner, that level of coach, that level of athlete.
Yeah.
All right? If you want the athlete to work hard, kita ni as sports medicine doctor, you as a coach, everybody else, physiotherapist, the conditioning trainer, we have to work just as hard at least.
Of course.
So this is the thing, and then we have to understand. Now, I have all these points before in the slide, all right? Why you become a coach, and is it necessary for you to be a good player, or even a player at all, right?
Yep.
Some good managers, we can Wenger or Ferguson, this level.
Jose Mourinho never played
Mourinho,
football
they were
at the
not,
highest level,
they were not great
but they're
players.
top
They
class
were
coaches.
That's right. They
Yeah.
but they understood human behavior,
Yeah.
and they knew how to get the best out of people. You see,
Definitely. Definitely.
and organize all of these peripheral and central, services that need to get the best out of the team for the
Yeah.
team to become the best. So that's the thing. Sometimes we have to ask coaches, how do you see yourself, and then do you realize how people see you, your
Yeah.
players, the sports scientists, how do they see you? Do they respect you? Why? Because in the first instance, you have to be respectable to be
Yeah. Of course. Of
all right?
course. Yeah.
So, and then the nature of the profession, as much as it is with medicine or any other profession, the coaching profession is a dynamic one. You really
Yeah.
have to keep up all the latest knowledge. You cannot be saying that I'm the good coach now. You look at Mourinho; he was a great coach with Chelsea. Suddenly, with Manchester United, he was already struggling,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
with Spurs, he was a flop.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there you go. You have to keep growing.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
old you are, it really doesn't matter. So let's look
Yeah.
at the so I have mentioned just now that coaching is a sports science, right? It
Okay.
is not about management or art, And then the question is, how deeply do you believe in it?
Yeah.
And are you a friend or a foe to the sports medicine, sports science, and sports technology people that serve you? Are you going to facilitate them so that they can serve you and the player, or are you going to struggle by saying that I don't agree, and then you do not cooperate with them? There's no point getting all of these services and you are not believing and giving them the right platform to serve you properly.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of things on this slide which
Okay.
I will make the point before. So let's
Yep.
move on. let's talk about the performance support personnel.
Okay.
All right. We already talked about the philosophy of the approach, the multidisciplinary approach, and then it's all about getting the balance of well prioritized components, and then with temporal correctness, meaning it always has a time and place. Temporal means time. Okay.
Okay.
Then you must always have close collaboration with the coach. You're serving the coach, and then you're merging your program with the coach's master program. So you have to be at one, with the coach. Okay, and then you must have good communication, and then you still retain educational responsibilities to educate the athlete, and also, of course, the approach is different. Okay, you're not going to be like a teacher to the coach, but you have to sort of, wisely, give the right information, the latest information to the coach, so that the coach can then give consideration to what is emerging, what is important. All right.
Okay.
And then I've already mentioned it's not just art; it's also science. And then the worst thing that can happen is just if you are thinking that I'm just doing my job, right?
Yeah.
This is not a job, because if you do it well, it seems like you're living another life.
Yeah.
You're living the life, So, but of course, with some people, it's to the detriment of their private lives. But you got to get the balance as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got it right.
And then the other thing is, you must always retain a healthy responsibility for the outcomes. You cannot be blaming people.
Yeah.
It is the physiotherapy.
No finger pointing.
Cannot. You have to take that. So the thing I want to highlight in this rather busy slide is the return to play.
Okay.
So this is very important, because you have to sit together. The doctor and the physiotherapist have to sit together with the coaches. All right.
Okay.
Discuss about return to partial training, return to full training, and return to competition on the bench, preferably, all right? And later on as a starting player. So these are the things. These are of paramount importance, because you cannot have a decision if you do not discuss this. Of course, in the end, the coach will say, I will take if somebody has to say, if the coach says, I am the coach, I will take responsibility for my actions, despite recommendations from medical. But I have to tell you, there have been instances in the past, as the doctor, as a licensed medical professional, I have had occasions to stand my ground and say that I'm taking responsibility for this recommendation, and I'm holding to it. Because sometimes you reach the limit where what the coaches want to do will be a danger to the player.
Yeah.
Right?
I've seen that, yeah.
That's where I have to stand my ground. Otherwise, it's all shades of grey, right?
Yeah.
I can be right, I can be right. So let's go with it. So I don't mind, going along with it. But if it's black and white, if it's danger to the athlete, because my priority is always the safety and health of the athlete.
Yeah.
Okay? And I trust that the coach will share my priorities as well.
He has to, Dato, because you are the expert in that field. And due credit has to be given to the personnel who's managing it.
Having said that, it is also my responsibility to communicate well and to show him, why I think I'm right. I cannot be saying, you have to follow me because I'm the doctor. That's the worst.
Of course.
I have to present evidence. I will show him the ultrasound scans, the MRIs, and then I'll show him certain signs. When I examine, I show, this is the thing we're talking about, right? And then I have to have a plan of how to proceed from that point to a point where this player will then return safely to your training and to your competition that you want him to be in. Yes.
Absolutely.
So this is the thing that you have to get. It will take time. I work with Coach Param. I work with all the coaches, all the other hockey coaches throughout the years, and badminton. There have been some scrapes, there have been some tense discussions, but by and large, if you work with people long enough, and of course they will sense that you're acting in good faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're acting professionally. So that's why you must always be professional, act in good faith.
Yeah.
When people trust you, then it's going to be a smoother ride for everybody. All right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And then coming to the end, we're talking about, just now we talked about sports in life in sports, you made a mention. Now let's talk about management executives, okay? Meaning officers, either it's in the association or the National Sports Council, or even the National Sports Institute for that matter, because you have administrative people. Sometimes I question them because I'm in the position, because I was CEO. I happened to be a medical person, right? A sports science person. So it was easy. But if I were to be just an admin and finance person, executive, then the outlook might be different, you know. I may have different priorities. So the question for such people would then be, whatever decision or direction you want to embark, are you facilitating the achievement of this athlete or this player's well-being and top performance, right? Or are you just being a gatekeeper,
Okay.
right? Trying to make decisions to show who's boss.
Okay.
I've been through so many of these things.
Yep.
And the thing is, I am fortunate, you know, Alhamdulillah, I'm fortunate because I am in the position where I am both on the field and in the boardroom.
Okay.
So nobody can pull the wool over my eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, unless I allow it. Okay, I'm careless or I'm tired or whatever. So whenever something happens, I will always relate to what happens on the field with the athlete and the coach.
Yeah.
So that I will say that all of you are just looking at reports. All right, I'm there in the morning at 7 o'clock. I'm there in the evening until 7. So what is it about my evidence I'm giving you? All right, that can be overturned by mere words from you at this table. So I've had to say things like that, you know. So that's why people in this situation have to facilitate professionals, the coach, the sports science people, you know, the doctors, the physiotherapists, and of course the players themselves.
Okay.
You must look at the players as assets. They're not people to be used for the attainment of your own personal ambitions. All right? Yeah. Because if you look at the triangle just now, the relationship between athlete, the coach, and the sports science personnel and all that, the people who help, you know, the athlete, this is the central one. You have to facilitate, you have to serve the best interest of this relationship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not doing your function. That means you're off on the tangent, trying to satisfy yourself. So this is wrong. This is same applies to politics. People like sports because number one, you either get your face in the front page of the newspapers or you get in the back pages of the newspaper.
Yeah.
All right. I got my face plastered, but I never look good, you know. Whenever I never look good, but it's okay. But sometimes you get some you know some attention. So sometimes people love this because they get to bask in reflected glory. But where does glory come from? The glory comes from the coach and the athletes.
Yep.
Come from the players. The players winning. So
without
that's why
that you will not. Yeah.
Exactly. So they create this continuity. I want to keep being successful. They have to keep winning.
Yeah.
So are you serving them or are they serving you?
Okay.
You see, so this is the problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's not make too much noise about this. Otherwise, I get a lot of flack from my principals. But this is the reality. If anybody wishes to differ from me, I always welcome a debate at any time. But another point, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. There you go. So let's try to look at the challenge. There's so many, all right? We've talked about all of this, so there's no need to go over that.
Yeah.
But see, the most important thing is sometimes we fail to invest in the final 5% of what we need to give, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes if somebody needs 10 million, okay, we give them 9 million. We shortchange them 1 million. But because we don't give that 1 million that they need, in addition to that 9, to make it 10, they fail.
Okay.
All right? So you must have a proper judgment of how much it will cost. I know it is important, but you see, you have to sort of titrate what you give in according to what they have done before, and what you need for them to do after this. You cannot be keeping things the same and expect the same results. You cannot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want progress, you need to have progress in many different aspects, including the finances, okay?
Yeah.
And the management things. So there you go.
Okay.
I have these two stories to tell.
Yep. Go ahead.
You can perhaps shorten it later on.
Yeah.
Just as an aside. Now, I was a chef de mission for the Malaysian contingent at the SEA Games in Laos in 2009. All right.
Okay. Okay.
So at that point, at that point there was no Astro, right? No proper coverage for the SEA Games. So what happened was mainly in-house, and so many people do not know this. What happened?
Okay.
You remember the time when we won the football gold medal?
Yes.
After so many years, how long? What? 25 years?
Yeah.
Something like that. The last time we not winning a gold medal at home in Kuala Lumpur, winning a gold medal outside Kuala Lumpur.
Okay.
So it was 25 years. If I'm not mistaken, in Jakarta. SEA Games. Yes. So if you look at that, the first match that we had was against, I think it was against Thailand, or was it Vietnam? I can't remember. But we lost 3-1. And we had the players sent off towards the end. There was a whole ruckus. Everybody was throwing water bottles, kicking the bench, so on and so forth. I was up there watching all of this. I was looking. And I remember noting a few players who misbehaved so badly, because there's a certain decorum. You're playing for the nation, not playing for your own club or your own flag. You're representing the nation. So there's certain expectations and certain things that you have to live up to. So following morning, I called up on one of the players. He was the one who was, we were expecting more from him, but he let himself down. All right? So I told him that I'm actually going to make arrangements for him to fly home as soon as possible. Can you imagine?
The reason being?
Reason being, because he was supposed to be the standard bearer, he was misbehaving, and I'm just trying to tell him, right, that I can do it. I can have him sent home, and I will justify it.
Okay.
Of course, he was aghast, right? And then his eyes started to redden, and tears were about to fall. And I said, "Look, do you want this to happen?" He said, "Tak ada, Datuk, tak mau." Okay, this is my hand. I said, "You hold my hand, you shake it, because after this, you promise me that you and the whole team will do better than this." I told him, "You promise me?" So he promised me. So I said, "Okay, I will hold you to that promise, so you will not be flying home." All right. I was about to do so. If it had gone badly, if it had sort of resisted and all that, of course he'll be flying back home. All right. Because this is the Malaysian contingent. This is not just football or club or whatever. So then that's that situation. And then we have to deal with the coaches, because the coaches were shaken up. They were supposed to do things in a certain way. They expected certain results and all that. Then what I did was, I said, look, to deal with the players, because we had two psychologists with us at that point. Because I'm a sports science guy, I made sure that the sports scientists were following us as well. Okay? These two, I said, Dr. Jolly Roy and Rebecca. Two good psychologists. Rebecca Wong and Dr. Jolly Roy, Indian national who worked with us, an expatriate. I said, Dr. Jolly, Rebecca, can you attend to the players? What would you like to do? Then they said, look, they're all under a lot of emotion and stress. So what they'll do is they'll just put some cards and ask the players to pick up which cards portray whatever mix of emotions, distress, confusion, anger, pick up those cards. Then they will deal with the individual player according to the cards that they have picked up. Can you imagine the number of players, at least the starting bench, the starting players, okay, and then the bench players. Then I said, I will deal with the coach. To deal with the coach, what I did was, I sat with the coach, breakfast, lunch, dinner, as much as possible. And I just instigate something, I'll let the coach talk. Because the coach needs to offload. Right? The coach knows how to do his job. He knows. I'm not there to tell him to do his job, how to do his football. I'm there to show him that I'm here for you. I support you. And now you try to clarify things. So he started talking and all that. You know who the coach was, Raja Gopal? You can ask. So we enjoyed this. I liked him. I like what he was trying to do. I do not wish to see anybody let him down. Not the players, not the sports scientists, not everybody else. Right? So I was there to make a statement that I support the coach. Of course, in the papers, he was lambasted. Right? And then he had occasion to say, look, this person, they're giving me a hard time in the papers and all that. I said, don't worry. This is the team. We are in charge of our destiny. We are about to do this, so let's do it. So the next game, this is Cambodia, I remember. It was very tense. The first half, no goals, right? Second half, and then the floodgates opened, we scored 4. After that, it was plain sailing. It was. Then we improved, and finally we got to one point where I think we defeated Thailand, isn't it? We defeated Thailand 2-1. So. What happened was Thailand did not get to the semi-finals of the football competition for the first time in many years. It was like a national, disaster for them, like a
Yeah.
national whole veil of sadness over that. So it means that much to other nations. It has to
Yeah.
mean much to us because this is not just about playing football, playing a game. It's about national pride. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So for us to achieve that, despite all these challenges and finding a way, at
Yeah.
that time, it's not about going back after all the event is gone. We were trying to make the remedies and the transitions and all these things during that time. So that's why I'm proud to say that I'm very proud of the coach and his assistant coaches and all the players because they responded to this. They had all the capabilities. It's just that we just need to just push them a little bit here, a little bit there, and that's where they are. So they are the heroes of this thing. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Now regarding the technical committee, you and I were both in the technical committee,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
I remember I have to say at one point I haven't heard from FAF for so long.
Okay.
Okay. Then I was wondering, I was telling my PA, my secretary, so, hey, when was the last meeting? It was so long. And then I called them up. They said, oh, sorry, Datuk, we had a reorganization and there's now a new technical committee. Your name is not in the list. So, okay, all right. So now I have to understand why was this happening? Because I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not there for position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
important thing is
Yeah.
that you look at the whole situation. The
Yeah.
most important thing is that our are the teams that we have in our leagues, are they actually good enough? Are they endowed or possessed of the right ingredients
Yeah. They don't.
uh, to
They're
do
not.
well as a professional organization, all right, in sport, and how that is going to impact on the national team,
Yeah.
all right? So then I was asking questions, and then we worked it out. We made the proposal.
Mhm.
This proposal was to audit every single team in. There were two leagues, right?
Yeah.
You have the
Super League and the Premier League.
and also the Premier League. All
Mm.
right.
Mm.
Now we wanted to do a pilot study. Why? We need to look at how well they prepare sports science. The training program, physical conditioning, physiology, how well they manage injuries and all that. So we're going to find a lot of information, and then we're not going to be pointing fingers and finding fault with people. We just want to find the solutions
Yeah.
so that we can advise. At least we have the evidence. And we tell FAM that this is what's needed, and they're not there yet. All right.
Okay.
We speculate now, even now when you and I were talking, but with that evidence, we can document that this is the thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
The problem was, I think at that point they were resistant. All right.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to be scrutinized like that.
Okay.
All right. So I think I can understand their anxiety and their reticence. In terms of they're going to have a good look at me. Am I ready
Yeah.
or not? So nobody wants to
Yeah.
be studied. They do not wish
Yeah.
to be scrutinized. So I can understand the situation, but the loss is not mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not my loss.
Absolutely.
So this is the sort of things. You see, on one hand, we have a story of success with the team itself on the
Yeah.
ground as it happens in the heat of the battle. And then you have this one where people sit well considered with a cup of tea in one hand, can talk, until the cows come home, but at the same time, not wishing to make it happen, just giving the impression that there is a committee and the committee is doing its job.
Yeah, that's the sad truth. It's
Yeah.
not only from that at that point of time.
Yeah.
I think it was somewhere around 2015, 14. Yeah, when you were taken out from the technical committee. Was it around that?
I think about 2011,
12.
2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this has been going on, and I got to come out truthfully to say that most of the times, from what I can see, they do not want they some sort or other they want in simple terms a yes man. They want people who would agree with them. You got to sometimes agree to disagree, which they do not want. And there was a time when the late Sultan of Pahang who was president then, said that all general secretaries must go through certain kind of have certain kind of qualification so that the rightful person sits there. The council totally threw it out, didn't support him, didn't agree, because everybody was enjoying their current status, because it comes with lots of perks and benefits, and it's going on till now. And sadly, there are so many committees there, which people who sit there, sometimes people who just sit there for the sake of sitting and not contributing in any way positively in a sense that you do not need to agree. Sometimes you have to disagree, and it's always good to have check and balance, someone who always puts you on check and balance so that you will have the right ingredient, you know. So I can really see what would have happened. I can understand, and I would again reiterate that a person of your composure, of your knowledge, is definitely needed. Even now, it's not too late. The honestly, the technical committee, I've seen the list of members. Nothing wrong, because I think I'm going to draw a conclusion from whatever you have said, that yes, Malaysian football lacks in the sports science knowledge part of it. Malaysian football in general, right from scratch, right till the national body. The national body may have some experts here and there, but I think if you do not have, like you said, at the pre-puberty and post-puberty, you do not have the experts manning these athletes. I do not think we are going to have top-class athletes at the age of 17, 18, 19, when they start going into the professional era.
Mind you, I don't put any blame on FAM per se, no. Because at the end of the day, the thing that scuppered the whole endeavor, the whole attempt to help, was actually at the state level, right? Because the state teams, all these other teams, they just do not wish to be scrutinized. And because they're all affiliates to FAM, and they hold sway in terms of voting and all that at the AGM, so on and so forth. So it of course FAM have to do the right decisions politically.
Exactly.
People like me, we have been at peace with this, and we understand. But at the same time, please don't ask, all and sundry about when are we going to make some progress in football? Right? As we slide, slowly down
deeper,
deeper and deeper, 164. I don't know, what position we are. Now, I do not wish to say that I have all the answers. I don't. Okay, but at least if people like me, not necessarily me, right? People like me, or people that I can guide, because I'm old now. But if there are other people who might not have the courage to speak up, so instead they try to give a service, but they're too afraid to say to call a spade. So in that sense, these people need to be given the platform to do the right things, to be supported. That's why it goes back to that triangle.
That's why they do not want, because we are people who call a spade a spade. That's the reason why they do not want us. They want us to call a spade something else, whatever they call. Then you are in their bandwagon. I mean, we are not pointing fingers. It is happening. It has happened. It is happening. It will happen, because we fail to understand that football doesn't belong to an individual. It belongs to the rakyat. It belongs to all of us. And I think that there must be something done. Otherwise, I mean, look at, we have been one of the top nations in Asia. Now nobody looks at us even in Southeast Asia. And to tell you this, as a football consultant, I am trying to strive outside Malaysia because people do not look at us anymore as what they did once. The first question they ask is, you are trying to advise us on football, but where is Malaysia? You are below us. You know, that is the kind of, that is the kind of thing that we get. Of course, some people who have worked with us, who have worked with me, they know, and they say, no problem. I think you have done some work here and there. I think, come, let's do. But on the whole, when the national team does not do well, when the league doesn't dwell well, with all the foreigners now becoming our national players, I do not know naturalization. I do not know that's where we are heading. Anyway, you may not say it, but I am drawing a conclusion that we still lack. There may be clubs and FAM may be using, but I think still we need more and more sports science education embedded into the coaching syllabuses. Like you said, trying to put forward to show the coaches what they should know and how they should implement it. It's an important factor that needs to be looked at.
Okay, I understood.
Your departing words, Datuk?
Well, you know, sometimes when we fail, when we lose, everybody wants to find out why we lose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when we win, everybody is too busy celebrating.
Yeah.
They forget to ask, do we know why we won in the first place?
Yeah.
You know, why did we win in the first place? So I feel that we need to know as much as why we succeed, as much as why we fail, we need to know why we succeed.
Of
so
course.
that we can repeat this. So this is something that goes on, and to get this sustainability, I know that we are looking at all these challenges that we look at. But in the end, the most important thing is for us to recognize that nobody at this stage will say that we do not need sports science.
Okay,
Everybody,
definitely. Yep, agree.
You know, one would be a very foolish person
to
say that there's no need for sports science.
Yeah.
But we are just as foolish if we then spend so much money, throwing money at sports science, getting all these experts from not only from this country, from outside as well.
Yeah.
Okay, building, you know, new stadiums, you know, getting people to perform certain functions, getting expensive players and coaches and all that. But we are not investing enough in the sports science.
Yeah.
We're not talking, when we invest, we're not talking about getting paying for service, you know, because that's like getting people and you just pay them. But for the future, you have to develop your own sports scientists.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you'll get value for your money and people who are loyal to you.
Definitely.
But get this, it is not just about looking at the system. It's also about getting the right culture, the right culture of excellence. These are the missing ingredients.
Yep.
For us to get to this, there must be an adoption of an approach or an attitude that this is our mission, not only win for our clubs, our states, you know, our football, you know, for the nation, but also to understand why we're doing it and for this to be sustainable. And to do that, to say that we have sports science is not enough. We must also believe in sports science, and we must do good things with it, and to make it continue and grow, you know, as an important component of the achievement of optimum performance with the player, with the coach.
Absolutely.
So right now, it's not just enough. Everybody can say, I have a sports science team and all that. But I would like to ask, you know, can I have a look at the sports science team? What are they doing, right? And if you don't have a sports science team, you know, what is the coach doing and all that? So all of these are the questions. Sometimes when we had, you know, our time at the institute, we had to have external reviews, all right? Because you have to get experts from other countries, UK, Australia, USA, New Zealand, come over to our country, assess us, and give us their thoughts about how well we're doing. Because we cannot be looking at our mirrors and telling ourselves that we look so lovely.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
We have to let people tell us what's and all. What is it that we need to do to look better, to be better? All right. So there you go. I wish you, Subra, you and your colleagues, this endeavor is the most valuable one, because it doesn't run counter-current to the wishes and aspirations of the football community. It does, okay? But because you run on a track that is outside the mainstream, all right?
Yeah.
The value and the challenges are even more than if you are in the mainstream. Because when you are in the mainstream, you are coasting along, you're thinking that you have it made. Whatever you say, everybody will swallow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But in this context, people outside this mainstream are the ones who are struggling to make a point. And this point is something that people should listen to, because in the end, you have no agenda except to see that our country will do well in the future in football.
Absolutely. Rightfully said, Datuk. Thank you very much.
If football does well, everybody is happy, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, of course. We all are happy. Yeah.
So my best wishes to you, to
Thank
everybody in the audience and watching this one. And if there are any questions that need to be addressed above and beyond this session, please, I'm sure you will provide them with my email address so that they can address all these questions to me.
Not only that, Dato, this will not be the end. We may also look at, because sports science is very large, we have touched here and there. Maybe I want to look at it more specific. Let's see what the audience come back with once we publish it.
Sure.
Give me a couple of days to get over with doing all this. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Dato, spending so much time in explaining, coming forward to tell us where we are. It's needed, a much needed component of football. We can't separate it.
Very well.
With that, have a good weekend. Thank you very much for your time, and look forward to speaking to you again, Dato.
Sure.
Yeah? Thank you and good night.
Good weekend.
Stay safe. Right, bye.
Good night.
Good night.